Hello and welcome to Smart Investing Market Insights. I'm Krista Das. You can argue that economic strengths outweigh housing weakness, but there's too much uncertainty to bet on a big market recovery. Over the last 10 years, there has not been a housing bubble like this one. With so many mortgages about to reset, there are a lot of scared market participants heading into October 2007 resets here in the United States and across the pond, says my next guest, Ian Cooper. 7 months ago, it was Ian Cooper and crisis traders Krista Hamer that called the top of subprime and the impending doom of housing after seeing what looked like the beginning stages of a recessionary nightmare in the mortgage industry. And they were dead on. As we speak, 156 lenders have imploded. Millions have become delinquent in mortgage payments or lost their homes. The most respected banks in America have needed countless bailouts or filed for bankruptcy protection. And multi-billion-dollar funds tied to housing have unraveled. And it's only likely to get worse as we head into the peak months of mortgage resets and the very real possibility that millions will lose their homes. But just as the U.S. has struggled for some control over subprime, it's Britain that must now get defensive or risk a tumultuous economic future, said Ian in his British credit crunch, What to Short in Armageddon report published last Thursday. Welcome, Ian.
Thanks for having me.
At TFN Financial News last Thursday, you mentioned that Britain must now get defensive. Why is that?
Well, let me first say that when we first issued that TFN Financial News report, one of the short recommendations was Northern Rock, symbol NRK on the London Stock Exchange, a stock that had already fallen 50% from its March 07 highs, thanks to threats of higher mortgage defaults and property foreclosure. On Thursday, the stock traded at 600 pence. 2 days later, it traded just under 290 pence. It wasn't as if no one saw this coming. 90% of UK mortgages are adjustable rate or floating rate mortgages. There's plenty of reason to be fearful for UK housing and the overall UK economy. While current UK ARM rates sit at 5.75%, consumers must still contend with higher resets to about 6% come October 07. And as we've seen in the US, the ARM resets do have the potential of having a severe impact on British consumers and send the British housing market into a US-type tailspin. On top of mortgage debt, British consumers owe $2.7 trillion on credit cards. Debt per capita is at a higher level than even for the U.S. households. The Brits' household debt equals 166% of GDP as compared with just 127% in the U.S. It's a trend that could soon be wreaking havoc on banks that have already written off $18 billion in bad consumer debt.
So are you calling for a similar decline in other British banks?
Absolutely. We're calling for further downside for Alliance and Leicester, symbol AL, which is exposure to housing and auto credit. Kensington, symbol KGN, a mortgage lender that offers credit, prime, and self-certification loans. And Bradford and Bingley, symbol BB, which focuses on mortgages and self-certification loans, or loans that only require a borrower to sign a statement of earnings without having to provide actual proof of earnings.
Do you see a similar U.S. subprime situation unraveling in the U.K.?
Well, we're already seeing it. Just as Countrywide had its own bank runs, we're now seeing that happen with Northern Rock. Investors are converging for the third day to empty their savings. You know, before the run, the bank had more than 1.4 million savings account holders and more than 800,000 mortgage customers. Since that bank run, more than £2 billion were reportedly withdrawn. Economically, this could be the beginning of a real mess. British Finance Minister Alistair Darling may believe the UK can weather the latest subprime storm, but others aren't as optimistic. UK economists are already predicting that the borrowing binge has left the UK extremely vulnerable to a noticeable slowdown. Even Greenspan is warning for UK homeowners to brace themselves for a major home value correction, believing that interest rates may have to rise to keep consumer prices in check. We saw what looked like a recessionary nightmare in the US 7 months ago. We're now seeing that same recessionary nightmare in the UK. Once mortgages reset at higher rates, housing values plummet, and the consumer cuts back on spending, they'll have a real mess to contend with.
Good stuff. Thanks, Ian.
Yep.
Well, there you have it. Short the British banks. If you would like to learn more about Ian's Death Cross Trader service, visit www.tfn.com. mark.deathcrosstrader.com. Or to read his British Credit Crunch, What to Short in Armageddon report, published last Thursday, visit www.taipanfinancialnews.com. That's all for this week. Until next time, here's to great profits from smart investing.